What's going on, guys? My name's Josh and I'm back today with another Shining Vale episode 4 recap. Now, before we get this video started, if you could do me a huge favor, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now you better watch out because it's time to get this video started. Let's go. So yes, guys, I'm still enjoying Shining Vale. We're now on episode 4, and yeah, up until this point, we had earlier in the season where Pat was being haunted by a ghost named Rosemary. The family's pretty much completely oblivious to this, but then after last episode, pretty much Pat talked to her therapist, and her therapist said that, I don't think, Rosemary's a ghost. I think Rosemary's a figment of your imagination. Writers, she's pretty much your muse, and I think you should tap into it. So now, the way Pat's viewing Rosemary is more like a muse, something she created out of her own imagination. So that's where we're at going into this episode. And I would say episode 4, I did enjoy. I did like this episode. I do feel like this episode was a little bit slower, but I still overall enjoyed it. I definitely think Pat is a hot mess. She was a hot mess before when she didn't drink, but now she's even a hotter mess now that she's back to kind of drinking again. And we pretty much see in this episode, and we'll go into the recap in a second, but just pretty much Pat, we see her trying to write. Pretty much her editor says, we're going to give you a bigger advance. Just, we know your history, that whenever you have a lot of pressure, sometimes when things are going well, you pull a Pat and you pretty much self-sabotage. So then in this episode, we really see Pat trying to write. She's trying to, keep writing and keep this good momentum going. And then she keeps writing, whenever she's writing Rosemary keeps killing herself. So that's a lot of what we see, Pat trying to not self-sabotage, but she's self-sabotaging. Pretty much the episode ends, though, with Pat, asking for Rosemary, she needs her help and she wants to keep writing. She tells her she made her up, she can get rid of her. Then we see a projector come on, and it's a video of Rosemary, and pretty much this confirms to Pat that Rosemary is not a figment of her imagination. She really is a ghost, and Rosemary is alive. So then Pat finally sees the truth now, that this isn't her muse. Which I love Pat, but I'm like, how is that not obvious? You've been haunted by this ghost for the first 3 episodes you were haunted. I get, you were starting to write and you were in a happy place with that, but that was not your muse. That was a ghost. And it just kind of duh. Of course she was alive. She's a ghost. I just thought it was funny. But either way, now Pat is finally realizing that, she is being haunted by a ghost. It is not a muse. It's not a figment of her imagination. Rosemary was real. So that's kind of where the episode ends. As far as the other the other family in the episode, there was funny moments, definitely with Terry. I think Terry quitting his job, I thought that was really funny as well. But let's get into the recap part. So the episode opens up to pretty much Pat starting to write. Terry comes up and interrupts her. He kind of keeps interrupting her, and Pat's just very kind of irritable and snaps at him and says, if I'm up here, you need to leave me alone. And you can definitely see the tension sometimes that there is between the two. We then see Gaynor is still hitting on the neighbor Ryan from Chastity Club, and it seems like the more she hits on him and the more she can't get him to break his faith, the more she wants him. So we see Gaynor doing that. We see Pat hear music coming from the basement. She goes in the basement. She actually finds Terry in there. He's going through some of the stuff that's in the basement, trying to fix it up, and he actually finds an old vintage projector as well. We then see, Pat meets with her editor, Cam, and Cam loves the new book. She loves all the new pages, and so do they pretty much offer her an advance on her book. Now, there's not even a little bit of advance. It's triple of what she was making, so this is really big for her, but her editor warns her, hey, when things are starting to go really well for you, that's when you self-sabotage. We call it pulling a Pat. So pretty much she's telling her, don't, you have a good thing going, don't self-sabotage. Has Pat kind of freaked out because she doesn't want to self-sabotage. And pretty much she thinks that, Rosemary's her muse, and this prescription that the doctor gave her, the clozapam, that is her combination. She's going to continue doing what she's doing, and she'll continue writing, and it's not a problem. Next, we see that Jake is caught with porn, and pretty much Terry has to go to the school and pick him up. And then pretty much Jake says he found this porn in the treehouse in the woods at the house. We then see Terry comes home. He catches Pat in the bathroom, and she's actually drinking in the bathroom, in the bathtub. And then she explains she's not an alcoholic. Terry pretty much says, like, hey, I quit when you quit. You know how many happy hours I turned down because of you? Because I quit as well, because I was doing this with you. And then she pretty much is like, if you want to go to happy hour, go to happy hour. Go with your boss. Where Terry's like, listen, I hate my boss. But he pretty much, she says, like, maybe you should quit. And he's like, I can't quit. I need to support the family. Then she's like, well, maybe I can support the family. Things are going really well for me. And then he just points out, like, listen, you have blackouts, you're drinking again. I don't think things are going that well for you. But then she explains that, that pretty much she got a new advance for the book, and, it is going really, really well. And yeah, so maybe she could support the family. Then we do see that they pretty much, Pat tells Terry to get into that tub, and we kind of see they're doing a little bit better, especially beginning better than what they were doing in the beginning of the season. Pat is writing about Rosemary in the book, and as she's writing, Rosemary's also in the bathtub, but in the book, in the pages as she's writing, Rosemary keeps killing herself. First with a razor, second time by drowning herself, and this is freaking Pat out why she can't keep writing without killing Rosemary. We then see Terry runs into Catherine. She was offered her old job back, but decided to take the severance package and time off. She's just done with work. And you can kind of see, Terry also hates his job, so he kind of sees how, that would be nice to be done with work. We then see, Pat at this point is becoming unhinged. She's calling her therapist. She's like harassing the receptionist. And she pretty much gets her therapist on the phone video call and says, like, Rosemary keeps trying to kill herself. She's self-sabotaging. And he's like, listen, I think you're doing good because, in the past, you wouldn't reach out for help. This time you reached out for help. So he's like, I think you're doing good. And he pretty much gives her a refill on her medication. We then see Terry joins his boss for happy hour, and he's starting to drink again. He actually had a lemon drop, which was funny. We then see his boss pretty much insults Pat and says Terry needs to leave her and she's all of his problems. This does make Terry really, really mad, but he doesn't say anything. And he kind of is getting drunk, and he's talking to the bartender that he's going to pretty much quit. And he writes in the napkin, I quit, on a napkin, and he's going to have the bartender give it to his boss. We then see Pat write about Rosemary in the bathtub. She's smoking a cigarette. And we see, and then she pretty much masturbated, and then she's now smoking a cigarette. Rosemary was in the pages of the book. And then after, when we're seeing her smoke the cigarette, we also flash forward into real life. We see Pat is smoking a cigarette, but I don't think that's Pat. I think that's honestly Rosemary possessing Pat. Then she writes about Rosemary looking in the mirror. And then we see Rosemary yells, help me, and breaks the mirror. And then in real life, Pat kind of broke the computer and caught her hand. Terry calls Pat. He says he's going to quit, and Pat tells him not to do it. She doesn't have things under control. We then see Gaynor. She's pretty much volunteering at a nursing home. And then they meet a woman named Birdie. And then pretty much this woman, they mention where Gaynor lives. And the woman's like, tells Gaynor, you will die in that tree. The house in the tree, she'll kill you. You gotta leave. And pretty much she's freaking out and telling Gaynor she needs to not be in that house. This has literally no effect on Gaynor, though, and goes one ear and out the other. Then meanwhile, we see another scene. Jake's actually in the treehouse. So this woman's warning, Gaynor, don't go into the treehouse because the woman will kill you. Meanwhile, that's like Jake's new favorite hiding place or new favorite spot to go masturbate in the tree. We see there is a note on the wall that says, Daisy plus Birdie, we're here. So pretty much that woman we saw at the nursing home was Daisy's friend. So when they were kids, she knew who the little girl was who lived at the house. She was friends with her. We then see Terry. He tries to intercept the napkin before it reaches his boss. He kind of grabs a shot, takes it, and then takes the napkin back so his boss doesn't read it. So he's kind of taking it back that he's not going to quit. And then his boss and Terry's like, I got to go home. And his boss is like, oh, is it because Pat is ordering you to? So he kind of insults, Pat again, and Terry's this time is not having it. And then he finally gets the courage and he quits in the best possible way. He pretty much tells his boss to go suck, tells his boss to go suck a hot dick, motherfucker, I quit. And then he walks out of the restaurant. It was pretty epic, though. And it was kind of cool seeing, Terry stand up for himself for a change. We then see Pat is drinking in the basement. She's trying to, see Rosemary, and she tells Rosemary, I created you and I can get rid of you. Then all of a sudden the vintage projector goes off, and we see a video of Rosemary playing, and then Pat pretty much at this point realizes Rosemary is real. And that's where the episode ends. So yeah, Pat kind of realizes that, Rosemary's not her muse. It's not a figment of her imagination. Rosemary's real, and Rosemary's a ghost. So I think this is going to change things a little bit, and hopefully freak her out. She's been getting possessed this time, and I don't even know. I know she knows she's being haunted by Rosemary, but I don't think she realizes that Rosemary is actually possessing her. But hopefully we'll start to see that soon. It'll be interesting to see a little bit more as this unfolds. The family is still oblivious that they're being haunted and in this haunted house. Like, none of them, they've all got warned in their own ways, and they don't care, or they're so oblivious. Then it'll be interesting to see now that, Terry has quit, all this pressure to write the book now is on Pat's shoulders. How's she going to handle that? But overall, I'm still in this show. I'm definitely still excited about this, and I'm excited to kind of see where it goes. I definitely think, we're going to start to probably see, Pat become really possessed. I feel like by the end of the season, Pat will be possessed by the ghost. I'm hoping it doesn't happen. I'm hoping, it happens soon. So either way, I'm really excited. But what do you guys think? Are you liking Shining Vale? What did you think of episode 4? Please leave your comments below, and thank you so much for watching.